This morning I woke up to a text waiting for me saying that Deacon John had been sick throughout the night, so please keep him in prayer. He was supposed to preach today. He preached last night. So I had to, in my time of prayer this morning, really look over the reading and say, what is it that God is speaking to me today? And as I was looking through the gospel, these words, as Jesus says to this rich man who's had this great harvest and is going to hold on to it and cling to all of it, he says, "You fool, this night your life will be demanded of you. Thus it will be for all who store up treasure for themselves but are not rich in what matters to God." And I really was thinking about what happened down in El Paso with the shooting in Walmart. We never know, do we? We never know when our lives are going to be called into account. When we look at things like that, those acts of violence, those moments of tragedy, whether it's that or the people in the cliff that fell over in California, whatever it may be, when we look at these things, it's a moment for us to look at our lives and say, am I rich in the things that matter to God? Because the truth is, everything we have in this life is going to be taken away. Everything we cling to, it's all going to fall apart. There's nothing we can hold on to. When we look at these moments, we say we don't know when our life is going to be taken into account. Now, that being said, we don't have to walk around in fear saying, what's going to happen? Is it? No, because we are children of God. And we have to remember that no matter what happens, we are in His hands. I was thinking about John Paul II, St. John Paul II, and how we all know, of course, that back in 1981 he was shot, and how he survived barely, but by the grace of God through the hand of Mary. But very often we don't know about all the other attempts that were taken on his life. One time he got stabbed, other times there were people that were going to plant bombs and things came up. And people came to him and said, do you want to know like the intrigue that goes behind it? You know who it is? Is it the KGB? Who is it that's going to... He says, I know who's behind it. It's Satan. He says, and I'm not worried about him because I have my guardian angel who's watching over me. I think about this, and he said, basically, some of the people were saying, Holy Father, you have to wear a bulletproof vest. And he says, no, I don't. I have something greater than a bulletproof vest that's protecting me. It says, and anyone that wants to wear a bulletproof vest cannot come with me on my journeys. And yet, he survived to a ripe old age, despite so many people trying to kill him. Why? Because he knew God was his Father. God was taking care of him. God was watching over him. And when it was his time to go, he went peacefully in the arms of God. Because he was rich in what matters to God. He knew that intimacy with God. I wonder if all this evil is happening because we've rejected God. Not because God is getting back at us and saying, see what I can do, but rather God says, okay, you don't want me? I'll pull my protection away then if you really don't want me. And then Satan gets in and he speaks to people's minds and confuses them and they do awful acts of violence. I don't know. What I do know is behind every act of violence, Satan is there laughing. But we're children of God. And this is why at the end of each Mass I've taken up praying that prayer to St. Michael for protection, knowing that God is watching out for us. The question is, do we trust Him? Do we trust Him? Several years ago, 6 to be exact, when I first got here to the parish, I shared with you a story And then, I don't know, a few months later I shared it again. I says, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Probably hear it again. Well, now is that time. You're going to hear it again. I actually use it at all my baptisms. So if you've been to a baptism, you'll be familiar with the story. If you're going to a baptism today, you'll get to hear it again at noon. But it's one of my favorite stories. It's about little Emily. And little Emily was 4 years old. Little Emily, being 4 years old, had gone to the dollar store and seen this beautiful pearl necklace that she really wanted. Well, it's a dollar store, right? So they're not real pearls, they're plastic. Well, so she saves up her nickels and her dimes in order that she may be able to buy that pearl necklace. And she does. And when she does it, she loves her pearls more than anything else in the whole world. She loves to dress up at night and dress up and look at herself in the mirror. And whenever guests come over, she likes to show off her pearls. And at night, she always puts them on a soft pillow so that nothing will ever happen to her pearls. Well, one night as her daddy was walking in to tuck her in, he says to her, "Emily, will you give me your pearls?" And she says, Daddy, you can have my teddy bear, but you can't have my pearls. He tucks her in, kisses her on the forehead, and says, "I love you, Emily, even though you won't give me your pearls." The next night her daddy walks in again and says, "Emily, will you give me your pearls?" She says, Daddy, you can have my Barbie doll, but you can't have my pearls. He tucks her in, kisses her on the forehead, and says, "I love you, Emily, even though you won't give me your pearls." The next night her daddy walks in, and there's Emily crying her eyes out, her nightshirt drenched in her tears. And he runs over and puts his arm around her, and she says, "Daddy, here are my pearls." With his left hand he takes those pearls. With his right hand he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a black velvet case and hands it to her. And when she opens it up, inside is a real pearl necklace. You see, when we offer ourselves to God, we think He's going to take away everything that we love. But the reality is, He only wants to take away the plastic to give us the real pearl of great price. This is the heart of intimacy with God. Does He demand much? No, He demands everything. But in giving everything, He gives us everything back. Everything our hearts desire. He is our God, our Abba, our Daddy. So I invite you this week, especially as we reflect and mourn over the violence that's been going on in our country, I invite you to look at your life and say, am I rich in the things that matter to God? Am I willing to forego, to give up even some of the things of this world so that I can have that intimacy with Him? Will I cling to Him? I tell you, when we surrender to Him, then we can trust, knowing that no matter what happens in our lives, we are in His hands.